So again, I'm going to give you an example because isn't that the best way for us to see how we can do an identification? So I'm going to give you a scenario. You're an event planner and you have an upcoming wedding. And it's a big deal wedding, and they have a really nice sit-down dinner as part of the wedding. There's going to be 85 guests, and you have a new caterer, or maybe it's your regular caterer, it doesn't matter. You're catering the meal, right? The food and beverage is a very important part of every wedding. So you are really looking at those, the potential risks in food and beverage management in the design domain to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And so what is a big potential risk that could happen in the food and beverage functional unit? So what could happen is maybe the caterer doesn't bring enough food. You've got 85 people, and maybe they only bring enough food for 80 people. Okay, so how are you going to figure out, is this speculative? Is it absolute? You can say, well, if the caterer didn't bring enough food for everybody, oh gosh, that would definitely be a loss. But what if the caterer brought fabulous food and everybody was really happy and the service was great? Then it wouldn't be a loss. So does that mean it's a speculative loss, where in one way it's a loss, no gain, and in the other way there's gain? So this is what happens with a lot of people. They look at it from both angles. So reprogram yourself to not do that. When you're trying to evaluate a risk, you want to look at it from the viewpoint only of what if this risk should come true. So let's go back to that example. The caterer brings only enough meals for 80 people. There's 5 people at an 8 top that they don't have meals. Okay, that's an absolute risk. There's no gain for them. The caterer has completely failed. The event planner is going to be looked at as a failure by the bride. The guests are going to not recommend this person. They can't even get the food right. I mean, how hard is that? Those are the kind of comments people make. And I probably would say that too. Like, this many people replied. They said what they wanted, and you couldn't bring enough plates for 85 people. Major mistake, absolute risk. Now, how can that scenario be a speculative risk? Okay, in that very exact scenario, it cannot be. But let's do this. What if the caterer makes a mistake? But they have enough plates for everyone, but let's say they offered coq au vin and filet mignon as choices. And there were some people that chose the filet mignon, but they're being served the coq au vin. Okay? Well, they have a meal and they may be disappointed, but it's not a deal breaker. So this would be a speculative risk. There might be some loss, but it's not a total loss. You know, the caterer or the event planner, if they're good, they would be over there and they would be making some kind of compensation. Maybe they'd bring the person extra drinks. You know, they can get creative and find out some way to take care of those people. Even, you know, a sincere apology goes a long way. And reminding people the focus of them being there is not to get a filet mignon, but it's to celebrate this beautiful day with their loved ones. So there's ways of massaging that situation to work in your favor and for it not to be a total loss. So, you know, an error in food and beverage does not have to be a total absolute loss. So there again, that's an example where just looking at the first example, somebody might go, oh, food and beverage errors, they're always an absolute risk. But no, that's why I gave you the other example, so you could see, oh, just depending on what's going on, sometimes it's a speculative risk. So you always have to evaluate it by exactly what happened. And that's why you need to describe your risk exactly. Because if you had not described the risk as, I'm afraid the caterer is not going to have enough food for everyone, but you described it like, I'm afraid they're going to get the orders wrong, well, then that would have been the second example, and it would have been a speculative risk. The other thing to remember, and I just forgot what I was going to say. The other thing to remember, just a second. Oh my gosh, that flashed in and out of my mind right there. Caterers do their own risk management planning because they know they're under that gun as well. So, the event planner has it on a big picture, but the caterer will do their own risk management planning. So you might be working catering and find that this risk management plan is done on a smaller scale with vendors. And so a caterer would then, to avoid having this absolute risk, they would, and typically they bring extra plates just in case somebody ends up RSVPing at the last minute. Someone comes into town and the bride actually has more guests attending a dinner than what was originally planned. More times than not, a good caterer will always have extra plates in, and extra plates of both all the offerings, just in case someone ordered filet mignon and they were like, oh no, I really meant to click the coq au vin. So that's one way to look at it too, is that you may have layers of risk management plans in place. They're not your own, but your vendors have them also. So just be aware of that as you move into the industry, or maybe you're in the industry already. You can start relating this to what you see going on where you work.